Hello everybody and welcome to free UFC bet picks. Thanks for tuning into our show today. We are here breaking down UFC Vegas 16, Hermansson versus Vettori. These are our early predictions here after watching tons of tape. We will be doing our post-weigh-in videos on, or a post-weigh-in video on Friday, like normal, with our final bets, parlays, daily fantasy advice, all that good stuff. So let's get into our next fight here. It is the prelim headliner, a heavyweight bout between Villante and Jake Collier. Both of them stand at 6'3", but Collier does have a 2.5-inch reach advantage. The betting odds have Villante as the favorite at -210 and Collier as the underdog at +168. What are your predictions on this one?
This is a tough one, a weird one. This is kind of like Jones, Tyson, or like these guys are just way past their prime. I don't even know how this isn't like, this should be like the first fight on the card. These guys should, not even like be in the UFC really. But, since they're heavyweights, the UFC thinks, oh, there's going to be a knockout. They automatically get bumped up the card a little bit. But this is a really low level, hard to predict fight. Villante's a favorite because of how bad Collier looked in his last fight. But that was against Tom Aspinall. So let's start with Collier here. Tom Aspinall, the #1 lock of the year was Tom Aspinall to round 1 KO Alain Badeau. We were like so insanely heavy on that. Just been right, like Aspinall is a stud. Collier came in really out of shape. He hadn't fought in like 4 years. So before that, it was I guess like 3.5 years. His fight before that was in 2017 against Marcel Fortuna. And Collier, a former 185er who fought at 205, came in and had to cut weight to make 265. He just got like so extremely fat with a capital T. like we don't talk crap about fighters very often. Like he got so fat that he had to cut weight to make 265. Got knocked out in the first round by Tom Aspinall, but Tom Aspinall's a gangster. Jake looked decent in that fight though. He snapped up a head kick. He had decent footwork and he had some kind of crisp combos there for the 40 seconds or whatever that he could show off. And Aspinall is just extremely heavy-handed, so you kind of just got to take that whole fight with a grain of salt. But what all these bettors are taking away from it is that Collier just looked awful body-wise. They think he's got to have absolutely no cardio, which makes sense. And that, Jean Villante, who's a nice striker, is going to style on him. It all makes sense. But, Collier could have a nice grappling advantage here. So let's talk about the Marcel Fortuna fight. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, a big dude, a legit fighter. And Collier was just walking him down, pressing the action. Fortuna was using distance, trying to kind of like, just use straight punches and keep the distance. And trying to get well-timed takedowns. It really didn't start paying off till round 2. Fortuna was getting takedowns in round 2, gets his back, almost gets a triangle. And Collier did a good job surviving all of it. He showed decent grappling. In the third round, Collier was sprawling. He was defending the takedowns and, barely winning the striking. It wasn't like he was putting it on Fortuna by any means, but, he won. It was a unanimous decision win, but it was a close fight. Fortuna, definitely got that second round, I think. But he showed good grappling against a Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Before that, he had a unanimous decision loss against Devin Clark, who we have a high opinion of. He lost us a ton of money against Anthony Smith, but that's what we get for going too heavy on an underdog. Devin, was moving forward the whole time, but Jake was doing a nice job backing up, landing punches. He was hurting Devin a little bit. You could tell Devin was smiling a little bit when those punches were landing. Jake landed like a spinning back fist and like threw a spinning body kick. But really, Devin just won it with his cage control and his grappling. And Jake was exhausted in the third round. Pardon. God, I'm just yelling for hours straight here. John Villante, on the other hand, we think of him for his striking, but he's been getting just more and more over the hill as well. His last fight against Maurice Green finishes him from the bottom and like with a really weird Ezekiel choke type of submission. But Villante looked decent in the first and second rounds. He dropped him with this brutal hook, but he kind of just got gassed and got tired and was on top, not staying safe and got choked out. Before that, he lost with a round one body shot KO to Oleg Jacek. You know, that was Villante's last fight at light heavyweight before moving up. But Jean was landing nice overhands, looking to counter. You know, we know that he's a good striker. He was a little flat-footed. You know, normally he shows better like footwork and movement than he did in that Oleg Jacek fight. He was a little stuck in the sand. Before that, you know, he won the nice fight against Ed Herman. It was a split decision win, but it was a good fight. Nice sticking and moving, nice jab from Villante. Herman was landing the heavier shots, the hooks. You know, he was kind of sticking to the countering game. Most of those were not landing. Late in the first, you could tell Villante was already getting gassed. And in the second and third round, Herman was starting to land those. Herman was the one pressing the action forward. In the third round, like, Jean was bloody, and it was kind of a knockout or bust type of situation for Villante. I'm a little bit surprised that he got that decision. So Villante, you know, he only has about a round and a half of good striking, good cardio, in my opinion. When you look at Villante and how out of shape he is, you think that he's got zero cardio, but that's a little bit inaccurate. Believe it or not, it's kind of like what we said with Parker Porter versus Parisian. We said, I know this sounds crazy, but I think Parker Porter's going to have the cardio advantage late in the fight. Crazy as it sounds, I think Collier might have the cardio advantage late in the fight here, especially if he can grapple with Villante. So overall, I think it's a pass. I'd like to see the weigh-ins. So if well, we're going to see the weigh-ins, but I would recommend you wait until the weigh-ins, I should say.
Yeah.
Because Collier, if he comes in like 255 to 260, even 264, if he just comes in at a weight that shows he didn't have to cut weight, I like that. You know, and he should. I actually anticipate that he's probably going to look a lot better than he did 4 months ago or whenever against Tom Aspinall. If Jake Collier comes in and he had to cut weight, you know, I think Villante becomes a rather safe bet. So it's just, there's so many unknowns. We know Villante is a good striker. We know that Collier is decently well-rounded. He's kind of flashy with the striking. When he's in his prime, when he's actually looking good, he's a sprawler and brawler. He's a good striker too that wants to stay off the ground, but he's, you know, sufficient on the ground. With so many variables, we don't know what Jake Collier is going to look like. You know, just wait for the weigh-ins. You know, and but Villante did look pretty good against Maurice Green. You know, people have differing opinions on Maurice Green. We just saw Greg Hardy finish him, but you know, there's just so many levels to it, and the MMA math doesn't really work out. You kind of just really got to look at the tape and say, how do these skills translate? Jean Villante should have the striking edge. I think that Collier is going to have the grappling edge, and to me, it really comes down to what type of shape Collier's in. Yeah. It's a tough one.
It is. For Daily Fantasy, we've got Villante at 8,800 and Collier at 7,400. Are you putting either of these guys in your lineup?
You know, normally you want high exposure to the heavyweights because they have a higher probability of finishing. So, you know, for that reason, I wouldn't completely pass on these guys, but I think Villante is a little expensive at 8,800. Could he finish Collier? Yeah. You know, I just think that's a little pricey for him for a guy that I'm not that confident is actually going to win. Collier at 7,400, even though I said Collier's got a decent chance to win, and you know, I wouldn't just dismiss him. I think if he wins, it's going to be more of a, you know, grappling decision type of fight, and likely pretty low scoring. So even though we got heavyweights, one's a striker, I think the underdog has a good chance of winning. Both of them are likely to win in a low scoring fashion. So I'd say, you know, maybe if you're playing 10 lineups, have exposure to this fight in 50%, where normally you want heavyweights in like all your lineups. So it's going to be a little bit of a... It's unpredictable. You want unpredictability. But I just don't see either one of these guys going in and finishing, really.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a wrap on Villante versus Collier. Anything else you want to add on this one?
Nope. Appreciate y'all. Hope you could tell how hard we work on this. We're not just scrolling through Tapology and looking at these fights for the first time and like, oh, this guy's a favorite? Oh, weird. Like, they don't know how to pronounce any of these names because they've never watched any fight tape. Hope you guys could tell how hard we work. Appreciate y'all. Yeah. And we're looking to win some bets, and that's why we do all the work, and we just want to share the knowledge.
Yeah. And make sure you do tune in to that post weigh-in video on Friday. Very important stuff in there. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.